Hi, Will. Thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you doing?
No, doing all right. Pretty good.
Nice, nice. It's a pleasure to have you on. A big fan of you and Echo the Bunnymen, so it's a real honour. I
Uh,
just want to go back to the start, really. You grew up in Melling, in Merseyside.
yeah.
Was Liverpool and Merseyside, do you think it had a big role in the style and sound of the band?
Well, when I grew up, it wasn't Merseyside. It was Lancashire.
Oh, is it classed as Lancashire?
It was Lancashire. So was Manchester. Lancashire,
Yeah,
massive.
yeah.
Then they changed all the boundaries and that. But yeah, what was the question?
Or do you, do you think Liverpool and Merseyside had a role in the sound of the band?
um, I suppose it must seep in somewhere, But we weren't trying to sound like we were from Liverpool. Like a lot of the bands do sound like they're from Liverpool, like the Laws and people like that. Um, I don't think Mac ever sort of sang in a Scouse kind of way. And we were definitely not really influenced by the Beatles. I didn't particularly I thought the Beatles were great, but they weren't my favorite stuff. American stuff was my favorite stuff. The Doors and Love, people like that. Television. Um, so I suppose it had some sort of influence because it seeps into you, but yeah, it's not something that we thought about
Well,
or
the
tried.
band have their own sound really, and you have your own guitar style, so it does make a new sound.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of weird all that because I never tried to sound like anybody particularly except maybe Tom Verlaine or television. Um, so it's just I don't know. Like I don't sit around playing the guitar ever, really.
Don't you?
No, I, no. Like it took about 20 years before I noticed that the notes were in alphabetical order.
Do you
Like
think it's better that way though, that you don't follow any rules, you do it your own way?
yeah, I think you find new routes. Because if you know exactly what you're doing, you're not going to try things. You think, oh, that's not going to work. But then sometimes them things freakily do work. So yeah, I like that. I don't sit around playing the guitar, and it takes me a bit of time to like I'm working on a thing now, um, on an LP for one of my friends, and I have to kind of takes me a while to get. I just explore and find out what notes fit. I don't really know what the chords are doing. I don't have them written down or anything. It would take me ages to work it all out. So I just I experiment and try things, and I think, oh, that works, or that works, and then just expand on that, and then get to know it then, and you know, uh, it's uh, it's just the way I do it. I don't know. It's not that a lot of guitarists know what they're doing.
Do you think that helped the band though? Because when you started out, none of you really were
Yeah, I think
established musicians.
yeah, I think so. Like it just sort of we didn't know anything what you couldn't do. So it was Les would play the bass in different ways. Like the first single, he played one note or something. Definitely on some of the things he just does like the dong dong. And who's going to do that when you're about like the people want to show off and put as many notes in as possible. I always think simplicity is always the best way, you know. Um, so the fewer chords, the better.
Well, you took that punk approach of not being established musicians, but anybody can do it if they
Yeah.
try. Was punk your favourite genre growing up?
Growing up, I liked Bowie, you know,
Yeah.
Les Cooper, Sensational Alex Harvey Band, things I suppose that had a kind of what would you say, like a kind of more theatrical thing, going on as well. I like that, like Sensational Alex Harvey Band used to dress up and they looked weird, and they had like a sort of comic book kind of aesthetic going on. I like Doctor Feelgood, love Wilco Johnson. Um, he was just amazing to see play. He could sort of play lead and rhythm at the same time. It was just this mad kind of flicky thing he did with his hand. I never tried to copy him because it's impossible, but I did try a little bit on the track Crocodiles, where I sort of just went berserk and then ripped all my fingers to bits, blood all over the studio. But, you got to suffer for your art, haven't you?
We mentioned Liverpool before. A key place in the start of the Bunnymen was Eric's. What was that club like?
It was just like, like all these things, like CBGBs in New York, were just a little dark black hole of a bit of a shithole, but it was our shithole and it became like home, and we used to go every night it was open, we used to get in for free. So that helped because once you had played there, you kind of like just let in, everybody was, copy and everybody would just get in for nothing because you were sort of part of I don't know, the furniture of the place, Um, it's just amazing. I saw so many bands there, everybody, The Damned, Suicide, Devo, Perubu, goes on and on and on. I didn't see the Clash and I never saw the Pistols. I was just a little bit too late for that. Everything was moving very fast. A month, everything could change. It was such a weird scene, and to me the punk thing only lasted about a year, and then it done its thing, kicked everyone up the arse. It sort of got rid of that whole prog rock thing where you had to be like an amazing musician to be in a band. It sort of got rid of all that, and now it's going back the other way. With like the likes of Radiohead and Muse and all these, and Bring Me the Horizon or whatever. There's like it's sort of drifting back to like a prog rocky thing, which is fine. When I was a kid, along with all the Alice Cooper and Bowie and all that, I did like prog rock, and I still play it now. Yes, and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and all that. But that was kind of like the underground music at the time. The pop music was Chicory Tip and Middle of the Road and all this sort of crap, that was on the telly. Like it was a big deal when, Alice Cooper was on Top of the Pops. It was like, wow, Alice Cooper. It's like the Pistols being on the telly or something, and like Mark Bolan. Yeah, it was a lot of it was 70s music. A lot of it was really bad. But then punk came along and it changed. But there was good stuff, but a lot of the pop stuff was just Jesus Christ, awful.
Do you think the 80s were a better decade for music then?
Well, the 80s gets a bit of a slagging and it's seen as like this sort of like pastel coloured, kind of angular graphics and, big hair and like a bit sort of daft and a bit, over the top. But there was underneath all that, there was great bands, Gang of Four, Wire, all these, like they might have started out as like kind of punk things, but they developed into something interesting. Never quite got to the excesses of prog rock, but they were doing interesting stuff. Subway Sect, brilliant. There was loads of stuff in the 80s that was dead good. Per Ruben did some good stuff, and yeah, I can't think of many more. There is loads. My collection's full of them.
Yeah.
Even some of the electronic stuff was quite interesting. The Normal and that Warm Weather record was like stood out when it came out. That was 70s though, I think, but it was kind of it's sort of pointed the way forward, to something else. Cabaret Voltaire, the pop group, they were amazing. Saw them at Eric's. Just went on and on and on with like great stuff. It just sort of even like, like I like some of the dead early Simple Minds stuff when they were a bit more electronic and a bit more kind of dark and weird, you know. Um, Brian Eno was churning out brilliant records around that period, a lot of the ambient stuff and whatever. Mm, yeah.
Speaking of Eric's, the band played the first gig there. What were all those early gigs like back then?
Incompetent, but kind of brilliant at the same time, loose, very loose, but and if something went wrong, we were all looking at each other going, oh God, what we got to do now? Like the drum machine goes off or something, because we started out with a drum machine. Uh, yeah, it was pretty, but we felt like at the time, I felt like we were the center of the cultural universe of the world, like sort of just thought we were the most important thing that ever happened. Yeah. Roger Caravaggio and Leonardo da Vinci, we were it. Do you know what I mean? That's why you kind of have to have that, that you believe you, even when you fuck up and you make mistakes or whatever. If I made a mistake, then I'd do it again. Make it out like it wasn't a mistake. It was like a bit like a kind of discordant, weird thing. I really like that band, The Residents, and they're kind of, you've got to train your ear to like it. It's not exactly the most accessible music in the world. So I've always had that kind of, I like the strange stuff rather than the norm.
Yeah, like the avant-garde stuff.
Yeah, and Bowie was he pushed the boundaries. Like Low is my favorite Bowie LP. And it's like the one that's probably the least accessible of a lot. But I don't know. Next question.
When was the point when you realised it was kind of kicking off and more audience members were coming and stuff?
I think, well, when we started selling out, university halls, the Montfort Hall and that one, the University of East Anglia, and are all going nuts. And we were in the music papers just about every week, even if it was just something stupid, like a little mention. But we thought, wow, we're in the paper, we're in the NME. The NME was like, that was like punk rock Bible or something, It was if you're in that, it meant you existed and you were real.
Yeah.
And John Peel, being on John Peel's show, that was like a massive thing, to us. Like to the general public, they wouldn't even notice, but it was different then. It wasn't as sort of in your face as everything is now. You had to seek things out, You'd go down to Probe Records and they had a blackboard with what had come out that week or whatever. And, you'd talk to people and find out, oh, yeah, they bought this other thing out, years ago. We'll have to try and find that or whatever, So, yeah, it was like now you can just search it and it's just there, isn't it? It's given to you on a plate. You had to, even the clothes, there was no punk rock clothes shops in Liverpool at the beginning. There started being a few later on. They were a bit cheesy, kind of all the corny stuff. Like to me, as soon as like somebody had a mohawk hairdo, that was the end of punk rock for me.
Really?
That was like the end. Them lads in London that used to, used to have photos taken with American tourists and they had these like pink looking mohawks. It just looked shit. And that was like the sort of second wave of punk that was like a bit dumb.
Yeah.
Like Johnny Rotten and all that, like that. The Clash, Strummer, they're not thick. They know what they're doing, some of these other things, they were just like trying to be outrageous just for the sake of it, and it wasn't really what it was about.
Is that when it gets too mainstream? It's not the same then.
Yeah, it just becomes like I'm not saying it was any softer or any fluffy or whatever, but it was just a bit. We'd gone off it by then. Like our big band at the time that we really loved was The Fall from Manchester.
Yeah.
Joy Division, when they came along, and they sort of shifted the whole thing again. They started out as being like a punk band, kind of, angrily shouting and all the rest of it, Warsaw, and then they changed overnight. It was incredible what happened. Couldn't really believe it when we saw them. Had they done that? Everything's just a little bit not quite the way it was, but it's made this whole thing that's dead fresh, new and modern and interesting, and not like progressive rock or corny. And it's still like that now. You hear a Joy Division record now, and it's still, nobody else is doing that. You can't do it. Their soul did it. So that was good when they turned up. I really liked them. So what else did I like at the time? I quite liked Devo, but they were a bit jokey. I liked Suicide, but they were great. Yeah.
Bands like this, that like Joy Division, that were around when you started out and stuff. Do you see these as rivals in a way?
I didn't really. Not Joy Division. Maybe some of the other bands, but not Joy Division. They were like out on their own.
Yeah.
They were definitely, there was nothing, I think The Cure, Simple Minds, U2 were kind of our rivals. It was before the Smiths had turned up, the Smiths turned up a little bit after us, I think. But yeah, there was a lot of rivalry. Teardrop Explodes were rivals, but like things like Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, they used to go to Eric's as well. They weren't really rivals. They were on a different path.
Yeah.
That electronic kind of thing. So, if you were in the same sort of area, guitar, new wavy, post-punk, whatever you want to call it, yeah, there maybe was a few rivals floating around. Like, when we went to Australia, Simple Minds were in the bar. We didn't talk to them. They ignored us. We ignored them. It's like kind of like Simple Minds.
What do you do that? Would you do that a lot then, or was it just like with?
Yeah, we were like quite snotty.
Yeah, yeah.
And like sneering at people. That's good. Get that. Have you heard that new fucking record by then?
Well, the band were known for being mysterious and having an ego and stuff, especially with Ian.
Yeah.
Did that help the band with interviews and stuff? Did it?
I think there's people still do that thing now, don't they? Liam does it, the lad out of the Arctic Monkeys does it, It's just what they do, singers. It's kind of like you've got to have it in a way. You've got to have that kind of like, I am the best thing. Otherwise, you wouldn't get up there and do it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Les and Pete had the same thing, but we weren't getting interviewed as much as him, but we could be just as cutting and as sarcastic and all the rest of it as he could, But he got all the interviews, so because that's works, the singer's seen as like the voice of the band and the sort of the ethos of the band or whatever. But it's a lot of the time it wasn't like that. I didn't agree with a lot of the things,
Why would you agree with?
I don't know, just some of the things that he said over the years, Don't think of what. I can't think of anything particular, but he just can't help himself, can he?
You mentioned before you were in Australia. What was it like when you were touring the world and stuff? Because you mentioned in your first memoir that you didn't really leave Melly much growing up.
No, I didn't have any money to do anything. I think went camping with the Scouts a couple of times. Went with the school to a camp in Yorkshire, and when I was a little kid, went to Wales, at the Robin Hood's Bay caravan park in Rill, and it was horrible. But I was only a little kid, but I still just didn't like it at all. I think it was kind of like I don't know. I think I might have been on the spectrum, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of change and things like that at that point. Even though the situation at home was pretty bad, it never scared me or worried me or anything like that. Between my mum and dad, they hated each other. It was just the way it was, and it took a while to come out of that. I remember, like, when the band started taking off, and I was still working as a commie chef, the waitresses had said to me, "Oh, you've really come out your shell. You've really come out your shell," which basically meant I had a bit more confidence and a bit more kind of like, spunk.
Yeah. Like, like you mentioned, it was tough at home. Do you think that had an impact on you that you didn't know about at the time?
Well, yeah, it would have done it. Like, it sent me into listening to records and, ferreting myself away in the back room, listening to records with headphones on and going to bed with my headphones on and all that. There were them great big things in them days like this. And all the money that I got went into records and music. It
Yeah.
wasn't like instruments how to play. It was bands and buying records. So yeah, so it must have been because I suppose it was like somewhere to hide away from it all that.
Uh, so we've mentioned the early gigs with the band. What was it like going into the recording studio, recording Crocodiles?
It was just like we've done a couple of demos. I mean, I think we've done maybe one John Peel session or maybe two, and it was it was amazing because it was like a residential studio, Rockfield. It's right in the middle of the countryside. And at that point, I lived in Melling, which is like, it's a council estate and everything. So even though it was kind of on the verge of country, it was like I never really ventured very far. I think I went to Parbold Hill once on my push bike. But the yeah, it was just another world. And it opened our eyes to like there is another world out there. There is, you know, people that have got more than, a little bit of cheese in the fridge and nothing around, and quality. The food was a shocker. It was like quality. They had a cook. She used to, you know, do all the food. In fact, her daughter has just done a book about the whole thing. It's called My Family and Other Rock Stars. It's all about Rockfield, and
Oh
like
yeah.
that. And before, because like Queen did Bohemian Rhapsody there and stuff like that. Earlier stuff. Hawkwind were always down there, and Robert Plant was always knocking around. It was like uh, what you see on the telly on, something like All Creatures Great and Small or something. It was a farm, so it had like farm stuff going on as well, and they had these barns that were converted into studios, but they were done well. I went before this second book I've done. I went up there and visited the place, and they showed me around, and it was just pretty much the same. And I remembered it, and I remembered there's like a courtyard, the studio on one side, and then there's like these old stables or something, these old buildings. It's like a big square, like a quadrangle thing. And when we got there, it was like everyone could choose, a little sort of apartment to live in. And it was pretty much the same, and that was amazing. And then there was the fridge was full of food. We couldn't believe that. It was like bloody, really nice cheeses and stuff like not just like your crap from the shop, the orange or white cheese. It was like nice cheese and really crusty bread, stuff like that. And these cooks really looked after us and made like amazing food that we'd never had. It was like egg and chips, sausage, egg and chips, that sort of thing, spam, whatever, And so all of a sudden, you're kind of immersed in all this kind of luxury to us. Um, there's nobody had any money, even though I had a job, all my money went on records and I didn't go out. I never went to a restaurant, never been in a taxi until got a taxi home from Eric's, one time, but you couldn't really afford them. Sometimes you'd walk home from Eric's, 8 miles.
Jesus, yeah. How long were you at Rockfield then for that first album?
About 3 weeks, I think. And we started out, we were going to do a single. There's a bloke called Pat Moran, and he was going to produce it. A lovely fella, but it didn't really, the record company weren't into it, or it didn't really turn out. We did Billy's Terrace with him, I think. And didn't really turn out how they wanted it to sound or something. I can't remember. So there was another engineer that was kind of floating around there called Hugh Jones. And he was kind of, even though it's down as the Chameleons producing it, which is Bill Drummond and Dave Balfe, who wasn't the band, the Chameleons from Manchester, wasn't it? They were down as producer, but they were more vibe merchants than anything else, like the real producer. And I think it was Hugh Jones. And he knew all them old fashioned, they weren't old fashioned then to us, they were like amazing, studio techniques like spot wiping. They'd have like a 2-inch tape, 24 tracks on it. And you could say there was like a little noise or something they didn't like, they'd select that track. They'd find it by, oh shit, the battery's going. God, hold on. Yeah. They could do like loads of funny little techniques and cut in the tape. It's like, say there was too many choruses or something, they'd cut it out by physically getting a razor blade and find the bit by they'd sort of scrub the tapes that would go, and they'd find the beginning of the bass drum, by scrubbing like that. Mark it with a pencil called a chinograph, and then find the next bit that they wind the tape on, and find the next bit where they wanted to chop it out. And they'd actually physically chop it out with a razor blade, and you wouldn't even notice it. It just, then they stick it with like this special like a tape, like a very thin tape. And, going at you spent 3 weeks on a record and they're going at the tapes with a razor blade. And if they do it wrong, but they never did it wrong. There was one time, it's in the book, I think, where all the emulsion was coming off the tape. Like, it's like a tape is basically, it's got like a magnetic kind of thing on it. It's like made out of iron oxide. It's like a magnet. So the tape machine sort of puts these like magnetic, I don't know how it works, but it's kind of like metal on a plastic tape in a way. And it was all coming off and going on the tape heads. It was all like this brown shit coming off. There's like something wrong with the tapes. So overnight, Hugh Jones, this was on Heaven Up Here. Overnight, Hugh Jones went to another studio in London that had 2 24-track tape machines and transferred before it got any worse, and you started getting, noticing it. He transferred onto new tapes, did it overnight, came back to the studio. He went to London from Monmouth, where Rockfield is, in Wales, South Wales, and then came back, and we just carried on recording. He had no sleep at all. Wasn't bothered. This has got to be done. This is the thing with being a band. Some things they've got to be done. You can't say, I can't be asked. Getting up at 1 o'clock in the morning to go and get a plane to go somewhere. You've got to do it, haven't you? You can't, and traveling 1,200 miles across America in a van, for 2 days or something. You've just got to do it. And there was that. We had that spirit of adventure as well, which was, which was instilled in us by a lot of it was by Bill Drummond, our manager. He was kind of like a bit of an adventurer. He'd been mountaineering and done all kinds of mad stuff. He went on he went to Iceland on a fishing boat. Imagine that. One of them little boats, like, catching cod. It's just like mental. Like, you wouldn't get me on one of them for a big club.
Did you enjoy that side of things then, like the tour, not just playing the shows, but the touring side of things as well?
Yeah, well, just playing everything it still is. It's still good, you know what I mean? It's like, even though there's like friction between me and Mac, it's still good. It's still great. You know what I mean? Doesn't really matter.
Do you think that adds to the performance, the friction?
Always been like a weird, like, kind of undercurrent feeling of animosity. which sometimes just vanishes, and then it's like mates, and then it's back, and it's like, oh. But it's manageable.
When did that start?
Me just do anything to me, you know what I mean? It's like, it's just the way it is. It's like my mum and dad's marriage.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
When did that start then, when he came back to the band?
When he what?
When he came back to the band, is that when the friction started? Or?
Oh, no. The sort of built up throughout the first section, And when it came back, when we rejoined and like reformed or whatever, it was okay for a good while,
Yeah.
And but it's just one of them things, isn't it?
Yeah. If you've been in a band for 40 years or so, there's gonna be friction there at some point.
Yeah, it never boils over really into that much aggro. It's always just like an undercurrent, like ominous cloud. Brilliant.
Well, you said before that Ian said that Evan Up Here was your album because you're apparently a control freak when you're recording it. Is that true?
I was a control freak all the time, because I felt it was my band. But
Really?
but it wasn't just on Evan Up Here. That's a kind of sneaky way of saying the other albums were his albums. Well, they weren't. That's nonsense. They were all of our albums. Like Les, Pete put as much into them as anybody. And so that was, to me, just like spin, fake news, disinformation, black ops.
Is that what you say about what you don't agree with him in interviews and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, well, like, I think one interview he said, "Oh, Pete was just a drummer." Well, he wasn't. At that. More than just a drummer. He played piano on loads of the bits of songs, and he also marimbas and all this sort of stuff. Plus, the way he drummed was so inventive and so different to what was, just a normal drummer kind of thing. It had like a kind of different feel to everything. That it did upset me a little bit. That
Yeah.
And that falls in the Mojo, I think it was.
Well, when Pete joined the band, could you tell he was going to take it to the next level?
Yeah, like, I did like the idea that we had a drum machine and we were kind of like a bit different. But it was obvious, like, drum machines then were very primitive. It was just a little box that went, it was nothing really. But when Pete started drumming, it was like totally apparent straight away that this is what we needed, and we kind of all thought that, it just opens up a whole new realm, of like dynamics. Basically could go down to nothing and Pete would be playing something dead quiet, and then we could burst out into, a right racket.
You know, with Porcupine, like Bad say it's a difficult second album. Was that your difficult third album?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think we did some stuff in the, as far what I remember, the labels didn't like it. They wanted us to go back in and do it again, which we did, you know. Um, and you know, I think it turned out really good in the end. But you know, I haven't really got the demos of the original stuff, so I can't remember what it was like, you know. And you get used to, um, you know, you get used to certain things that are the way they sound, so that becomes your normal. Whereas, like when we did the original tunes, they were probably our normal. We were a bit pissed off when they didn't like it, you know. What they're talking about, they don't understand us and all that sort of stuff. But I think in the end of the day, it's a better record now, you know. But we've had like a lot of hindsight involved, you know. Um, I don't, I didn't really agree with the record labels a lot. That caused friction,
Yeah.
you know. Um, they just seemed to be arrogant, and I didn't like the way that they sort of thought they knew what we wanted more than what we knew we wanted, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know, that Harry Enfield, that character, oh, you don't want to be doing it like that. Off. We're doing it like that because that's the way we want to do it like that, you know. They're always trying to get you into a more sellable thing. Well, I wasn't doing it to sell records particularly, you know. I was doing it because I like doing it and I like creating and I like being in a band, and it felt like a little gang, you know. We're in this solid gang, we're all mates, and it was like a good, you know, everyone was in your corner, you know, in a ruck.
It's
You're frozen.
actually, did it?
Still there. You went all like
So that's my favorite of the first three albums. Actually, what's your favorite of those?
um hold on, I'll shut my door because there's some racket going on. Um I think, well, Heaven Up Here, you know, to me it's the most interesting one in a way. Although I do love Crocodiles, Heaven Up Here, Porcupine, and Ocean Rain. I think they're amazing. We had a brilliant time.
Yeah.
Like they're them four are amazing. The Grey
Even,
album
I was
was
going
a
to say
bit,
even the self-titled one's a good run of five albums in one decade, isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, we it was like one a year or something like that, one every couple of years. But a lot of bands were doing like one or two a year. You know, we were quite slow compared to a lot of bands. You know, but we went on tour a lot, and we always thought, "I will write some stuff on tour," but you never did. Having too much fun.
Yeah. How do you keep creative though? Like, still five that run of five albums in one decade is pretty like incredible, really.
Yeah. Um, don't know. I'll keep creative. I don't know. Just sort of happens. Just keep. You know. So it's, you know, I don't know where it comes from. I don't really want to know. You know,
Well,
and it's the same. I do other things as well. Like I do painting and all that. And it's the same sort of mindset thing. I don't know what I'm doing particularly. When I like it, it's right, and when I don't like it, it's wrong. You know, it's the same with the guitar.
yeah, yeah. Just a feel. You've got to like feel it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's an emotive thing, isn't it? Sound and music. It sort of makes you feel a certain way, which is, you know, it's magical, really. Like
Yeah.
strange. Um, so yeah, like doing the cover for Porcupine was good, but
Did you?
that was a proper adventure.
I was going to ask what was your favorite one to shoot.
Well, probably that one because it was the most out there kind of situation, standing on a glacier with like a 400-foot drop, and we're on like a little ledge. We didn't even know whether that ledge was solid. Get down there and we'll take a photo. And like we clambered down this like slippy ice, and we stood on this tiny ledge, and um, you know, the photographer's at the top looking down. Just, like when I like after we came home, well, we're all pissing around, we're all pushing each other and all that, trying to trip each other up. Could have easily just gone off down the fucking mountain, and that'd have been that, game over. And I'd wake up and I'd go, what the fucking hell are we doing? Messing around like that, on that. It was like 5 foot wide ledge of ice, and then like a 400-foot drop into a massive big, like the Grand Canyon or something.
Gee, that is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, no Photoshop in them days, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Ocean Rain's probably my favourite one, and you took a different route with that album. It was more, uh, what would you say, more commercial, would you say?
No, I'd say it was more. We knew we wanted to do something a bit more orchestral, and I think Mac wanted to go to Paris to do it. It was his idea. I was a bit like, I'm going to do there, but it turned out brilliantly, and it was a great idea. We had some French string arranger at first, and he was going to do it, and he'd done all kinds of the big name Frenchies, like Charles Aznavour or whoever. And we went for a meal with him. It's just in the daytime, and he was an arrogant turd.
Really?
I mean, accent didn't like him. He's not. We just didn't like him. He was so Adam Peters did it. Who he'd worked on a couple of things with us. He'd worked on Killing Moon, and he because that was done separately to Ocean Rain. That was done in Bath. He came over, and he was only 18, something like that. And he'd been to the Royal College of Music and all that, so he knew what he was doing. And we'd been in the studio, and we'd give him a cassette of what we'd been up to. And then he was upstairs, and there was a piano there, and he'd kind of work out all the stuff and write it all out. And then, with notation, like I can't write music or anything, but he could, and he could visualize it in his head what it was all going to sound like with like 30 odd blokes playing different things. To us, it was just like we couldn't really get our head around it until the day we came to go to another studio with the orchestra. And I remember there was like a load of carpets at the back, and I just lay on the carpets when they were recording it all. It was brilliant. It sounded amazing, just in the room. And there's a whole other art to miking up an orchestra.
Yeah.
In them days, not every individual instrument was mic'd up. It was kind of like where they put the mics really made a difference to the sound, And you had to like this studio that we went to in France. They are, they'd done loads of work. They knew exactly which way to do it. Becomes kind of the norm. That's why studios kind of have their own sound in a way, because it becomes the room gives a sound. Like I went to that studio in Sun Studios, in
Memphis.
Memphis. That's it, yeah. Is it Memphis or is it not? Memphis, yeah. And you can, like loads of them records sound the same, don't they? Them old rock and roll records, because it's in like a tiny room, and everything's in the same place. The drum kit's in the corner where it always is. It's all mic'd up, ready to go, and the bass and the keyboard or piano or whatever. And that was quite good, actually. It was good, great going there.
Oh, have you been? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can hire it and record in there. I think it's can't remember how much it is, but at the time it did seem quite reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. Would you ever think of doing out in there then?
I think you two have done something in there.
All right, yeah, yeah.
Tell me you two have done something in there.
With Ocean Rain, songs like Killing Moon and Seven Seas, did that put you more into the mainstream, do you think?
Uh, I suppose it did, but it's still got a quirkiness to it.
Yeah.
Not it's not Sheena Easton. You know what I mean? Uh, ABBA or whatever. It's got like a strangeness to it in the sound and the actual notes. Like there's like a weird discordant thing at the beginning of Seven Seas, which nowadays people go, "What are you doing? Like, them notes don't go." They
That's the
did,
thing again, though, isn't it, of not
but
like experimenting.
yeah, they don't go. But I think they do.
Is it right the intro to Killing Moon you were just messing about and and it just got recorded?
Yeah, it was. That's when we were doing Killer Moon in a studio called Crescent Studios in Bath, and we were just getting ready to do the backing track or whatever. And I was just testing my guitar that it was working. I went, ding, 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 yeah, that's working. And then we went off for it to get a curry around the corner. I think it was called something like Passage to India or something like that. Anyway, we went around the corner because we used to go around there a little bit when we were doing the recording there. And when we came back, the engineer, producer bloke called David Lord, he'd found that little bit on the back end, just like because the tape was rolling when we were doing it. And he found that little bit and he copied it off the multi track onto a 1/4 inch tape and then bounced it in twice, just sort of played it in, just press play at the right time, like sampling, but a very primitive kind of way of doing it. And when he came back, oh, found this little thing, see what you think. And we all thought, well, that's great, that. And then I had to try and figure out how I'd done it. I still don't know how. I do like the proposition of it, but I don't really know how I did it because it was just a throwaway little. But it's like little accidents like that. Like when you go in the studio, like I know, don't know who said it, but it's like Eno says it. The studio is an instrument in itself. The things that you can do, like you can do it on a laptop now. It's no. But at the time, it was like witchcraft or something. To us now, it's like everyone's used to it. Recording at home and all that stuff. But to us, like backwards guitars and reverbs and kind of all these echoes and compressors and noise gates and all this stuff, it was all like, what the hell is all this stuff? A compressor. Some of them old fashioned compressors are like, you just put a record through it and it just makes it a million times better. Because what it does is if there's like a quiet bit in the song, it can kind of bring it up, but you don't feel like it's going up in volume. It's kind of a weird thing. And if it gets too loud, it can squash it down. But it's still loud, but it's squashed down somehow. So it's still, I can't still get my head around it now. But yeah, all them sorts of things. And you can play a note, you just go ding, and it fades out. But you put it through a compressor, it'll go ding. It'll keep going because as it's fading out, the compressor is pushing the volume up dead smoothly. So it's like turning it up as it's fading. It's mad. So I did loads of things like that, like on Stars to Stars, got like a couple of notes at the beginning and that, like they were compressed to hell. So they sort of lasted longer. Without getting into the realms of distortion or what's the other thing? I can't remember now. Distortion or overdrive. That can kind of make it last longer as well. You go, whereas a guitar would just normally go dink or ding. You know what I mean?
Well, you mentioned Eno said like another instrument at the studio, and you were an experimental guitarist. So, would you experiment in the studio then? Did you enjoy that part of things?
So, like, and the other thing we used to do as well, if there was like, say I kept hitting a dodgy note, like it was doing like a little sort of thing, like we'd tape up some of the strings, like put like not gaffer tape, but some sort of like a white tape, so they didn't get played, so they wouldn't sound. So you could kind of that was a normal thing to do. Sometimes we even took strings off, and I remember playing the guitar once with a pair of scissors,
Really?
like a bow on Zimbo. And I still kind of do a lot of that now, like with like little bits of metal and stuff. I'll do it up and down the neck, and you can kind of like it's like a sort of slide, but because it's got a rough edge on the metal, you're kind of bowing it at the same time. But I just don't know. Like I suppose Jimmy Page did it with a violin bow, and before him, what's his name? Bloke out of the Creation did it with a like a violin bow,
Yeah, yeah.
dancing a all that. And then Jimmy Page did it famously, and yeah, and I think who else does it? I think Sigur Rós or someone like that do it, don't they? Then they do
I
it.
don't know.
Some one of the other bands they do it like with a bow, But I just use little bits of metal or anything I can find, really, screwdrivers, whatever.
Does that keep it exciting for you as well, like going down these different routes?
When you think of something new or you make a new sound, and you think, we were kind of like at the time we were kind of anti-synthesizer. We didn't want to use synthesizers because the synthesizer that was kind of like flavor of the month of that period was called the DX7, which actually is Eno's favorite synthesizer, but it's very clean, kind of like all them Howard Jones records and Nick Kershaw have got like chimey bell sounds and like really shit kind of horrible sounds. That to us is what synthesizers were, really. They were the new Roland or Yamaha DX7s, and it was just not for us. It was too nice. We did use an ARP Odyssey on Over the Wall. It's like a white noise kind of sound and a sort of grungy kind of distorted riff. And Dave Balfe played that. He had this ARP Odyssey, which was quite a primitive monophonic keyboard, loads of little knobs on it and stuff. Yeah, we like real things, like harpsichords or pianos. Like the piano in the French studio when we did it, Heaven Up Here, Ocean Rain, had drawing pins inserted into the beaters, so it gave it like a real prang, you know what I mean? It's like really wasn't like a soft sound; it was a hard sound. So people did things like that.
Yeah.
They just had a piano, like a little upright piano. They had a few pianos, and that one had these drawing pins in the beaters, so it gave it like a real ping. It's like a felt thing that hits the string, and then they put drawing pins in. It's like interesting, stuff like that is to me is interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that 'cause I can't play any instruments or anything like that, but when I hear stories like that, how you do certain things, and that is really interesting.
We like, I like 60s stuff a lot, so I like the Mellotron. That was like, the holy grail was to get hold of a Mellotron. We never did on the Bunnymen. That until like much later on. Yeah, but some of the techniques are brilliant. We do things like at Rockfield they had a big long corridor, and we put the amp at one end and the microphone at the other. So it's like a completely weird kind of distant sound. It wasn't like reverb. Like reverb's like if you're in a cave and you go, on a church, yeah, that, your footsteps are echoing round and all that. This was a different kind of sound because it was getting closed in like a corridor, and it was just like a distant kind of weird sound and things like that. Like I wouldn't be able to, if I listened to Heaven Up Here, I might be able to pick it out now which bit was, but I can't remember which song particularly. But we did all kinds of mad stuff, a lot of it was because Hugh Jones had already done it and he knew what he was doing, the engineer, and he was really good at that sort of stuff. Like he was an old school engineer that did all the tape scrubbing and spot piping and slicing the 24 track, and it's brilliant.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
kind of lost now. Like reverse guitar, it's really difficult to get a reverse guitar to sound the same as it did on a tape as it does on a computer. There's something about it; it's not quite the same. So I love reverse guitar things from probably like things like My White Bicycle by Tomorrow, or you know Tomorrow Never Knows by like the Beatles or whatever. I loved all that trippy Beatles stuff. Uh, so yeah, so there's certain things that computers are great at, but there's other things and easy and quick to do. But other things they don't quite have the same. I don't know what you call it, sort of grain or thickness. It's like some people now will like record on a computer, then transfer it to a 24 track tape machine just to get the sort of warmth. And they're spending, there's loads of plugins and stuff like that to try and get the sound to sound like it used to sound, which is mad, isn't it?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, remember what like you were like when CDs first appeared, they were such a hard sound, but it was kind of like fresh and new and dead crystal clear. Everybody was like, wow, that's great. But you listen to them now and you think, oh, it's a bit harsh, that's a bit trebly, it's a bit too bright. I want a bit of mud in there, and a bit of like a fog almost. I remember I had there's a band called The White Noise. They were like an electronic band from the 70s. Delia Derbyshire from the BBC Radiophonic Workshop was involved with them. And they did all kinds of mad stuff. But this LP called The White Noise is great. And I had a cassette of it. It was like a legendary record, It was like people had heard of it, but they'd never seen it, because it was from 1970 or something. And I had this cassette, but it was a cassette copied off a cassette, and it was like about 3 or 4 generations on. So it was dead muddy, It was really muddy kind of sound. But I found it like intriguing and more interesting, the fact that I couldn't hear everything dead clear. And it
Yeah.
was like, but I didn't realize at the time, I just thought that's the way it sounded. So when it got released on CD, and I bought it in a record shop in New York called Other Music. And I couldn't believe it was there. It was like The White Noise. When I played it, it was like so clear and so crystal clear. It was like a bit of a disappointment. Felt like you had your fingers in your ears or something, before. And it's like, it was more spooky. I've got used to it now, I've got it on vinyl now. Managed to find an original vinyl one, which I was chuffed about. Yeah, it's a great record. Well worth, if you like electronic stuff, it's well worth finding. It's called
Yeah,
Electric Storm,
yeah, I'll try it.
The White
What,
Noise.
what are
Get
some
it anyway. Bye.
what are some of your favourite albums then that you'd recommend somebody to listen to?
They come from different periods, or
Anything you like.
I can't just do three for albums, like because
Too many.
just say when I was like a kid, I'd say um, Next, the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, Metal, Pink Floyd, uh, Fragile, yes, okay, and possibly you know um, Trilogy. Did I say Trilogy? Emerson,
No.
Lake and Palmer. But so, that's my prog rock period. Then when it came to like punk rock, I'd say the Clash's first album, uh, Fall, Live at the Witch Trials, um, and The Idiot, Iggy Pop, maybe. And then Bowie records, which were sort of going through the whole thing. Low, Ziggy, um, really like Man Who Sold the World. It's a bit more rock, you know. And I've got a real soft spot for Diamond Dogs and Aladdin Sane. In fact, all the Bowie records. And like at the same time, you've got Kraftwerk, um, Trans Europe Express, which is amazing, and Man Machine and all them first run of records, Autobahn and all that. Just goes on, doesn't it? Like, I'm still buying new records today. Yeah. I really like that band from Australia called the Lazy Eyes. Have you heard of them?
Oh no, they're good.
They're really good. They're kind of like trippy, but kind of poppy and interesting. And the singer's got this like mad ethereal voice. Good stuff.
Yeah, I'll give it a listen. Yeah, yeah.
They've got a new LP coming out as well, so we're all me and all my Lazy Eye mates are all like looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I'll check them out. Yeah, yeah. Cheers.
Oh, television, punk rock television. Marquee Moon in here somewhere. That's a must for anyone. As it moved away from punk rock, I go YL154 and Suicide, the first album. Just brilliant. It's like an electronic thing, but it's organic. And it's like rock and roll done on like a distorted keyboard, but with like crazy vocals and a drum machine at like 400 mile an hour. It's ace.
What was it like recording the self-titled album? Was it a bit of a difficult time then?
Yeah, and things had changed. Things had sort of changed, and Mac was coming in with completed songs and going, "This is the way it is," So we're all a bit like, where's our input? Where's our creative input? So it was kind of, it had changed a bit. Then he sort of gained power. But things like Lips Like Sugar, and like, that was, I kind of was instrumental in that. And Les was instrumental in Bedbugs and Ballyhoo. So there was a couple of things there, a couple of the best ones, really. So it says it all, really, doesn't it? So yeah, it was getting a bit difficult then, and that's when, not long after that, is when we broke up.
Yeah. Did you see it coming then?
Didn't really see it coming, but really wasn't asked when it came.
What do you know?
It just seemed like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, John, it's course kind of thing.
But it was only later on when you realise that you really had something good,
Yeah.
that you miss it. You don't miss your water till your well runs dry. Kind of thing. So it was obvious that there's like something between us that's, talking about me and Mac here, something between us that worked. It's just, things changed though over the years, and kind of strange. But I that's why I do loads of other things, like to get me creative outlet. Like the books and the painting and solo bits and bobs. Like, I know they're not going to change the world. I know they're not. I'm not like doing it to make money or anything like that, or to get in the charts or something. It's like, never got to do that. It's all too weird what I'm doing. And I just do it because I like doing it, and it's a creative outlet. It's like somebody that makes pottery or whatever. They can't stop doing it.
That's the best way to be though, instead of chasing the charts and money and stuff. If you're in it for
All
the
that
sake of it,
sort seemed pathetic to me. It was
yeah.
like, I need the, you know, approval of some divs. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? You know what I mean? Kind of, how can you be in my head and know what I want to do creatively? And like, tell me what should be in my head. It pisses me off. It really did. And then, like, they proved themselves, the record labels, anyway, the big ones, they have proved themselves. They proved themselves to be a load of charlatans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The way that like, remember when MP3s hit the scene? Yeah, it's a good few years ago now, probably 20 odd years ago. MP3s hit the scene, and then there was like all these sharing things like Napster and LimeWire and all this sort of stuff, and you could get anything for free. Record companies shit themselves. They didn't know what to do. They thought it was just they couldn't get their heads around it. They weren't clever enough to know what was going on, and they panicked. To me, this is what it looks like. They panicked, and they've got in bed with all these streaming services. And as long as they get the money, they don't really give a shit about the artists.
Yeah.
Like their stuff, like the artists get sod all money. Like it's pathetic. It really is pathetic. Like Killing Moon is like streamed. I think it's 1.7 million times a month.
Jeez.
And we get like a couple £100.
Like Killing Moon, it's in an advert now. So will you get money for
Yeah,
that?
that's a different thing. You get that. That's actually not that bad. We get paid for that. Yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, like Spotify and stuff like that.
for that. But it's Killing Moon's like easily the most played and all that. I just think they've sold all their artists from everybody down the river. Like the record labels still get like 50, I think they get 55% of the revenue.
Crazy, like that.
It's like, uh, isn't that fraud? Isn't that like illegal somehow? And the other thing that pisses me off is we're all in the musicians union, right? Where were the musicians union when this was mooted? When this was like, where was they on the side of the musician? Like, because it was all done in back rooms or whatever. Nothing was like out in the open that was what was going on until it's done and dusted.
All the world about is money, innit? That's it.
Well, yeah, but it's like I know I'm not doing it for the money because there's not that much in it, like really. But it's like that just seems unfair, and it's not just for us; it's for everybody. I can't believe that they got away with it. It's like the biggest heist in history. Like that geezer that runs it, Spotify, isn't he worth 348 billion? And that was a few months ago. He's probably worth more than that now. Like, why do you need 348 billion?
You don't all do. Just greed. What you
Just
meant to do with that? You can't do it in a
weird.
lifetime. Yeah.
And on the back of other people's talent, not like he's done anything particularly, invented a program, coded a platform, you know.
Like record labels though? Like back when you were on vinyl and stuff in the 80s, what percentage would they get then?
The deal we did at the beginning, um, it was 15%. We got, or 14%, something like that, and then it eventually creeps up.
Yeah.
Now, that's, say, a record cost, you in the shop was a tenner or whatever, just to make it easy. So we'd get 15 quid. Record label would get £8.50. And with that 15 quid, like record labels are like a bank. you borrow the money off them to make the record. So you're paying for the studio time, which is, in them days, it was like £1,000 a day, something like that. It's come down a bit now because of the whole home recording thing. It's kind of forced it all down, but like you easily spend £1,000 a day in a studio, but it's all shielded from you. It's just like it's like a debt that you're going into. The good thing about it is if you don't sell any records, you don't have to pay the debt back. It's this is a thing that sort of punk rock kind of brought in. It's recoupable, non-returnable, right? So that means they can only get their money back by selling records. But you got to remember, they get £8.50 per tenner. You get 15 quid. So they're getting that £8.50, and that's like, a few thousand records. They've got their money back. Say it costs 50,000 quid to make a record, to go into a studio and hire equipment and do all the rest. And, so you end up with like a huge debt. Like when Warner's dropped us in 1989, I think it was, we still owed them £800,000, nearly £1 million, and we were kind of successful and doing like 10,000 seaters in America. So how does that work? It's
Yeah.
But out of that, one of the points I want to make is out of that, like 10 quid, say for the record, you get like your 15 quid. That 15 quid goes to pay back your debt, not the full 10 quid. They keep that £8.50 no matter what. That's theirs. You have to pay your debt back with that one 15%. So it'd be like,
That's great.
Chips away and chips away before you get to see any money. So you've made the record, you've bought the studio time and all that stuff. Now record labels seem to they have it stitched up because they've got the distribution and the pressing plants. So the pressing the records as well, which they owned the pressing plants at the time. So it wasn't costing them, the way like a little indie now, it might cost a couple of quid to press a record. And the more you do, the cheaper it gets. Now they were doing billions, millions of them. So they were like, it was cheap anyway. And when CDs came out, remember they were like making out that, oh no, CDs are really complicated to make. Like all of a sudden records prices went from like being like 5 or 6 quid to 15 quid for a CD. And then it turned out a bit later on down the line, everyone found out, well, actually it costs half a p to make a CD in the factory and you've got. You know what I mean? So it's like you're charging 15 quid.
More profit like that.
Yeah, and like they have it sewn up. The other thing, like how they've got away with the Spotify thing and all the other streaming things is they have a thing in the contracts which says future mediums, future media or whatever, you sign for this and all future kind of. So unless you can see into the future, you don't know what's around the corner. It's just
Quite how they do it, but it's scandalous.
they're always moaning like the record sales aren't doing enough and all that stuff and whatever. But they've got in bed with the streamers, so that's why your record sales aren't doing enough.
If you were a musician starting out, I know you do it. You say you only do it for the music and stuff, but would it put you off a little bit because you can't make a living, really, can you?
No, because I never did it to make a living. I never thought I'd ever make a living. It was not the reason why I was doing it. So no, it wouldn't put me off. But just be aware that indie is the way forward. I think indie.
Yeah.
And all my solo things, like I've got no control over the Bunnymen stuff. But all my solo things are never going to be on streaming services. I know it's like a pittance of a gesture because, like, who's going to stream some of my weird tunes, but they're just not on there, and I won't allow it. In fact, there was one record on there, and I got it took off.
Really? From your point of view, I can see why you do that. Do you know what I mean? How they
Criminals.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
Everyone's just like, ooh, I've had 8 billion streams. Yeah, 40p, mate.
What?
Like, the other thing is, like, we did a gig once, and it was in. This was even before any of this. We did a gig once, and it was in Istanbul, and it was promoted by this new streaming service, and it was early days. It was good few years ago. And the girl came up to me. She had to do an interview. Mac wouldn't do it, so I had to do this interview. And I didn't really want to do it particularly, but she was like all like, buoyant and kind of like, oh, isn't this great? This new thing. I went, it's made music. It's reduced music to the value of toilet paper. And they were promoting the gig, so they weren't there. It didn't go down too well.
Well, it's right though, isn't it? It's like your livelihood, isn't it?
Well, it's also like this throwaway culture and kind of like, what I used to love trying to find records and like sending off to America for records and things like that, and getting imports. And now it's just like it's all there on your bloody phone. Boring.
Well, you mentioned you booked like the Velvet Underground one. That was not an old album back then, was it? But now we've.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Like I think it's hardly sold anything when it came out, And I got into the Velvet Underground in 1973, and I'd never heard of them, but I went to a record shop, and they had this cover. I really liked the cover. I thought, oh, what's this? I'd never heard of this. It was like a compilation. And got it here somewhere. Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's that Electric Storm.
Oh yeah.
Record. You know what? It might be in with me DJ stuff.
All right. Yeah.
Doesn't matter anyway. And I'd never heard them, but when I heard the record, I just thought, God, this is amazing. I loved it, and that really influenced me at the time. That Velvet's compilation, I had Nico on it as well. But Bowie did the Odd Velvets track, didn't he? I think he did a version of Waiting for the Man. That's the way things work, like then. It's sort of Bowie would go on about Scott Walker. So we'd all go out and buy Scott Walker records or seek them out, Eno would go on about the Velvet Underground. So you kind of find it and, it sort of spreads like that. And it was good. And nowadays, I suppose, there is good things to the streaming thing because it suggests other things. It's not all totally bad, but I did have it. I had Tidal and bombed it off in the end.
What?
Tidal's like another streaming thing,
Yeah.
I think Jay-Z has something to do with it or something. But I got rid of it in the end.
Do you still collect vinyl then, did you say?
What?
Do you still collect vinyl?
Do I still collect vinyl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That's stuff I've got to get through. Play. This stuff I've bought lately. Not all of it. Some of it's, other ones. Like the likes of that. Like this band, the Sound Carriers. I haven't played that one yet. Yeah. It's a disease.
I say it's so funny. Jesus.
It's a disease. Need treatments.
Well, you mentioned there you got dropped in 1989.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ian left, Pete died. Did it all feel like it was falling apart around you?
Well, yeah. And and like we carried on with Noel singing, and it was like a bit of a crazy idea. But it was the bloke from the record label that suggested it.
Yeah.
That's nobody, I mean, it was him. He'd phoned me up. He'd never ever phoned me up ever. Never interested in us, just interested in Mac really. And he phoned us up and said, "What are you going to do? Why don't you just get another singer?" And that's when I thought, well, if he's saying it, let's give it a go. He's supposed to know what he's talking about.
I like that album though. Do you like it?
Yeah, it was great fun doing it, and everybody was getting on, and it was a great vibe. And we went to America a couple of times and whatever. And it actually sold nearly 100,000 records, which is a lot,
Yeah.
you know. But the one before had done 500,000, so they saw that as like a going
Yeah.
down. But it was a mad idea.
You think he was kind of doomed from the start, really, coming in?
Yeah, I think we should have changed the name, if really. But it was a lot of it was done with kind of like a fuck you kind of thing. You know,
Yeah.
we'd worked hard and then we were just sort of cast aside, and it felt a bit like, don't like that.
Did he go and do a solo album or something as well?
He
He.
did.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you next speak to him then after he'd left? And
90 something, about 8 years later.
how did that come about?
A bloke called Paul Toogood phoned me up and said he knew us all. He was one of Pete's mates, one of Peter Fraser's mates. And he said, um, you and Max should get together. You're both sort of doing nothing. You know what I mean? And I had like a kid and was pretty skint on the dole, in fact. So it was kind of, and had to be done really. And for the benefit of the kid or kid, I had two kids eventually, but so it was kind of like you have to bite the bullet.
Yeah. What was it like first meeting again?
All right, actually, it was quite fun. It was Les came as well. He said Les said it's just like putting on an old pair of slippers. Les got these great sayings. He comes out with just dead funny. He's a really funny bloke, like.
Kind of broke the ice then, I guess.
And it was a good laugh. We went to the pub and yeah, it was all right. And went all right for a while. It was good for a while. And then it wasn't.
I know you did a
No, it
lecture
isn't.
with Pixie, like a side project. You and Ian, and
Yeah, like, but Mac didn't want to do the Bunnymen straight away. Some reason I think he thought we tainted it or done something weird or whatever. And we ended up like we did Electrofiction for a couple of years, and that was a great LP. Loved doing that LP all over that, like loads of guitars on it. We did it in Olympic Studios in London, which is I don't even think it's there anymore, but it's like a legendary. Everyone's been in there, like Bowie and everybody. And that was great, But we ended up doing gigs where we ended up doing like loads of Bunnymen songs in the set. And it ended up like we were doing like more Bunnymen songs than Electrofiction songs, just sort of they were going down better, obviously. So it just seemed logical to go back to being the Bunnymen. And then Les joined for a little bit and then he got fed up again and left. And his mum was dying and there was complications. So he had to leave. And then he moved to Australia.
so what was it like recording Evergreen then back as Echo and the Bunnymen?
It was good. Yeah, it was pretty good, that one. Enjoyed that.
It's a good album as well.
Hey?
Good album as well.
Yeah, that one's good, and Siberia's good. Flowers, I like doing flowers. It was good for quite a while, you know. Let's say up until what you're going to do with your life, when he started, you know, kind of ruling the roost a bit more, you know.
You said before that was the like worst time of your life at that point.
Yeah, I couldn't bear to be in the studio. I stayed in a tent in the garden.
Really?
Horrible.
What, just friction and stuff?
Yeah, it's just, you know, you had to be there, really.
Yeah. It's got like a Britpoppy feel, that album. Would you say from the music around at the time kind of influenced it?
I don't know. I've never heard it.
Have you not really? You're not
I
listening?
had it at the time, but I haven't played it since, you know. I don't play any of it, even the ones that I like.
Don't
Yeah.
you know? It must be weird listening back to your own stuff, though.
Well, you play the songs live. You
Yeah.
know, there are that we play live, and you just that's when you hear them. So why do you want to hear them again? You know, and like live, I always think they sound sort of better. You know,
Do you prefer it
loud,
live? Yeah.
it's that loud for a start, and it's kind of like things happen, and odd little bits that are different every time you play it. You know, I like that. The sort of something random will happen and it'll sound great. Or sometimes something random happen and sound rubbish, but it doesn't matter because it's gone in an instant. Except now, every turd is filming you on a camera. Every time you make a mistake now or whatever, it's like there. Really annoying, that.
Do you hate that then, the audience filming?
Like I've done it myself, but I'm very conscious of it. I always like do a bit and then put it away. Never go and see somebody that I really like, and mainly to send to me mate to say, "Oh, these are good." You know what I mean? You know, um, yeah, yeah. You can just goes on and on, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. What was the what was your favorite of the four studio albums then from 1999 to now? Well, after the
Yeah, split. You mean? Yeah, probably Electrofiction one, and then maybe Flowers.
Flowers, I like Flowers, yeah.
Yeah, and Evergreen I enjoyed. Um, but since then, I haven't had a lot to do with them.
You know, had lots to do with them.
Yeah, there's bits of me on various ones, but I'm kind of like binned off at the minute.
Must get on your nerves, really.
Um, it does, but there's a plus side.
What's that?
Don't have to be in the studio with Ian McCulloch.
What do you think it is then? Like a clash of personalities as well, do you think?
It's just different people, yeah. There's nothing in common really. Used to be, but not so much now. You know,
I know you probably don't.
and Lou Reed and the Velvets and all that. You know, that was the gel, the glue that kept it together a bit. And but now it's not there anymore. There.
Do you think it'll ever mend?
No,
No. Why not? Just got too much under the water. Too much under the water under the bridge.
I just don't. Doesn't need mending.
No, no. Well, what about like you've got a couple of gigs planned next year and stuff? What you've got one in the next month, haven't you?
Got one in a couple of weeks. Yeah, yeah.
You look forward to it.
I don't mind the gig. I'm looking. I haven't played for ages, so I'm just hoping I can remember all the bits. And we'll see. Yeah, we're
Basically, got.
day rehearsing or something.
I was going to say, do you rehearse then? 'Cause you mentioned you don't really play much.
Not a lot. No, we don't rehearse much really.
Is it kind of just see each other on stage, like come off stage kind of thing? That's it.
I sort of sound checks anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like it's basically me and the rest of them. and um, we have like a really good keyboard player, Mike, and he's kind of like the musical director or whatever, he's the one that knows what he's doing, you know. So if we're doing something wrong, he'll point it out, oh no, that's not the way it is, or whatever. He's good at that sort of thing.
So we mentioned you've got the gig next month. I think you playing a festival in Glasgow next year.
Yeah, there is, yeah. Yeah.
And what else have you got planned for the future then? You mentioned you're in the recording studio with your mate.
Yeah, that's gonna be I think you'll be quite shocked at that one, but I'm not saying who it is at the minute.
You're well known. Do we know who he is then?
It's he or she.
All right. Why will we be shocked? Is it not somebody you'd expect to work with or something?
Yeah, yeah. It's not Robbie Williams.
Good, good.
Uh,
I mentioned before I read your first book, which was brilliant. I've not got onto the second one yet, but I'm looking forward to that. Is going to
yeah,
be more books, I'm guessing then.
that's what I'm doing. Supposed to be doing now. Like really, book three. Trouble is, I've used the good titles up, haven't I? I've used Bunnyman up, and I've used Echoes up. And the only thing that's left is and the.
Yeah.
I might call it and then, but then I'm also toying with the idea of overkill.
Do you enjoy the writing and stuff then?
Yeah, it's great. There's been so lot. Being in the band has been the best thing that's ever happened to me. It
Yeah.
really the best thing ever. And even with all the ups and downs and all the rest of it, it's still the best job in the world. You know, um, we go all around the world, and I'd been to Will for 3 days. You know what I mean? So it's kind of it just opened up everything to me. And I love it, and I love playing live, and I love the crowd, I love the audience. I always talk to them and see them outside and chat with them or whatever. And it's to have that thing of like people really liking you and liking your music and being involved in their lives is it's just the best thing there is. You
Yeah.
know?
The thing is, the music will live on forever as well, and you can still hear your influence in bands coming through today as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I notice that myself sometimes, and I like it. I like that because have I influence anymore? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But there is a certain sound or way of doing it that I can't quite explain that does sound a bit like me.
Yeah, you've got
Um,
your own sound, and yeah, like you can tell when you hear it. Yeah,
I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's weird. So everyone's got like a signature, haven't they? And
yeah,
it's just don't know. Don't quite understand why. You know. And I don't try and sound like anybody else really, except maybe Tom Verlaine on occasion when I do like that sort of. He did a thing where he sort of wobbled his finger, so it's like ding ding ding, and he'd be insistent on one note, and I do something like that here and there, and I like that. But to try and sound like the Doors, who were one of my other favourite bands, it's just he's in a different league. He knows how to do all that finger business. I don't know how to do any of that. Um, you know, like I know, like when we did People Are Strange,
I was gonna say, yeah, it's good covering it.
yeah, like it is good, and it was like Ray Manzarek showed me how to do the guitar bit. Took him a while to show me. That was terrible. And I know Robbie Krieger, what's it, Krieger? He he's kind of like slagged it off.
That's
So,
it.
sort of. Although we did meet him not that long back, talked to him and that. He sort of and I agree with him.
What did
He's
he say?
wrong.
Oh,
Uh, showed me the right way to play it. So, he was right. It's only a minor thing, but also the way he plays the main thing is it's a lot more fluid than I play. I'm very like with the plectrum and kind of that's what gives like on that beginning of Killing Moon, it's kind of disjointed and a bit odd, isn't it? It's like it's not dead smooth. Think if somebody else had come with it, would have sounded like Liquid Gold or something, but kind of like quirky and a bit jagged. So I was a bit jagged on People Are Strange to compare to the way he plays it, And also there's like the bit where it goes, when you're strange, does like a thing. He said it should be a like short, like a ding, when you're strange, ding, and he goes, beep. And when you listen to it, yeah, I should have done a beep and not a ding.
That's crazy how they pick stuff out like that. I wouldn't know it's something like that.
Yeah, but nice fella actually. He wears some strange trousers.
Really? Why?
He had like crazy stars and striped trousers on.
Jesus. Have you ever watched?
The best ones as well, like all kind of mad spots and.
Have you ever had a bad fashion mistake? I know you really into your fashion when you were younger. Lots.
I used to have a zoot suit. When Blue Rondo Alatek was out and all them like hipsters down in London going to the beat club and what was it called, Beetroot, and everyone was getting into salsa and samba and jazz and everything. There was like a scene in the 80s, and I bought a zoot suit, like a big long jacket and double breasted with great big collars. I actually thought it looked great. I think it still looks good, But Mac used to take the piss out of it and still does. Still, if he wants to, have a go, he'll mention it like now and then.
Jesus.
Like the zoot suit. Like dead baggy trousers and like a spiv in the 30s or, a gangster.
Yeah.
We got it, like when we first started going to America, there's loads of these thrift stores and like vintage clothes shops and they're dead cheap. It was cheap anyway. You get nearly $2 for a pound back then.
Yeah.
So, you could buy clothes that were out of your league over here, but like loads of like dead good vintage shops. And we all got into buying like ties and dicky bows and mad stuff, little hats. Because you were sort of like, because you were like out of the country as well, there was nobody to take the piss out of it.
Yeah.
They felt like you were safe, like, crazy stuff. And everyone would be looking at you like, God, it's like I used to play on stage with a little dicky bow on sometimes.
Is there a country that like took to you that you didn't expect to be into the music, something like that?
What?
Is there a country that were really into the band that you didn't expect?
Oh, yeah. Well, Japan.
Really, yeah.
Japan's a funny place. It's like they're either really into you 1,000%, or they're not bothered. And like once you sort of stop being on the front page of the NME or in the page of the NME or becoming like a thing, they kind of they'll vanish. So like you're selling out big halls, and then all of a sudden you can't get a gig there. So we don't go there anymore because it's just too expensive and not enough people are stuck. They don't stick with bands like they do in America or here. People grow up with the bands and they still like them later on.
It's like a phase thing for them.
Yeah, it's like, they just go off you.
Nice, isn't it?
But, it's still at the same time it blew my mind when I went to Japan for the first time. It's like a mad model village train set or something, with like monorails and layers of roads everywhere. There's a road I think you can go from like to the airport, and it's all on an overpass. It's not like it goes along the coast and everything, and you're up in the air. It's like on a bridge thing, and it goes all the way to the Sonic Airport. And it's like seems to have been on this bridge for a long time. It's like miles or something. But it was great, and We were in this hotel called the Tokyo Prince, and it was right by the Tokyo Tower, which is like a bit of an Eiffel Tower thing, but it's all red and white. A bit like it's a bit more futuristic, and um, you'd go out the hotel, say we're going for a meal or going for somewhere to eat or a drink or something, and there'd be a load of like taxis waiting, and then these kids in the taxis following you. So there'd be like a big procession of like 5 taxis wherever we went in our van or like, it was like being the Beatles,
Yeah,
but on the scale.
yeah.
And Brazil as well was fantastic. Did some great concerts in Brazil. Um, yeah, all these places that we've been to. It's on it,
What's I was gonna
that's
say?
when the band opened it up.
It must be surreal, like playing all around the world like that.
Yes, like mainly it's America. America. We do a bit of Europe, and it's mainly UK, America nowadays. We do the odd thing in Europe, but not loads. Like we do Berlin, Paris, Amsterdam. But in the past when we were starting out, we do like a tour of Germany, do like 10 places, and loads of places in Holland. But it's kind of like the sort of, I suppose it's like the bigger you get, you kind of play the main place, but people come in from these outlying areas anyway. So
Yeah.
it's kind of it covers it that way, and you don't have to do loads of gigs, little gigs with 200 people there.
What do you prefer, the bigger gigs or the smaller gigs, like from back in the early days?
Kind of the medium-sized ones,
Yeah, the in between. Yeah,
kind of like not too small, so it's a bit shitty. It's tiny, but not too big, so it's you feel a bit alienated.
yeah.
Medium-sized gigs, did a really good place in Berlin just lately, and it was like a theatre, but it was quite small, and it was nice, really nice. It was called Metropole. You know,
Have you got any more gigs? I know you've just not long done a UK tour actually, but have you got anything more planned over Europe?
only like it's too early to tell at this stage. They tend to come in, and around spring, you know,
Yeah.
at least like February, it will start getting offers in and all that, or they'll plan on doing something. But because we've just done a tour, they won't be doing. I wouldn't have thought we'd be doing like a big tour, and especially in America. We did like I was there for like nearly 7 weeks, which is a lot for us. It's not for a lot of bands, but stay there for months. You know, but for us, 6, 7 weeks is a good stint. We do 2 gigs and then have a day off, which is quite good.
I can kind of imagine what the answer is going to be, but do you think there'll be any more Echo the Bunnymen material in the future, or do you think that's it?
No, no, they're doing a record now.
What do you mean?
Well, they're making an Echo and a Bunnyman record. McCulloch making one.
And you're not on it?
I might be on a bit of it.
I don't know. Why do that? Is I don't know what to say. Really, how?
Just the way it gets done now. I don't know. I don't make the rules.
Jesus. Well,
Either
I was going to say I'll give a listen. I'll like listen out for it, but it looks like it's going to be that proper Echo
I
of the
don't know.
Bunnymen.
There's one track that I've played on called "Brussels Is Haunted," and we did do that live a few times. Um, I might have done that a little bit. Like it was so long ago. You get called in. Oh, Mac wants you to put a bit of guitar on this. Go in, do a bit of guitar, and then go home. And there's a few that have not been called in. So
He should just really
I've
go
never
solo, should
should what?
go solo, should he? Really? Instead of going off the name Echo the Bunnymen.
Not for me to say.
No, I know you won't like say anything out of order, like, but that's my opinion. You know what I mean?
Mm. It's just weird now. He's got full control, you know. So
Yeah, it's a shame, really, that when you think about it, like from a fan's point of view, I'm sure it's a bit upsetting for you, like, but it's a shame from a fan's point of view.
well, yeah, as it is.
Well, we've left it on a bit of a sour note there, really, haven't we? But thanks for joining me here. It's been great to speak to you, and I've really enjoyed all the stories and stuff and the history of the band. And
Oh yeah, like I say, it's still brilliant. Still, you know, um, I feel it's a bit odd the way the situation is now.
yeah,
I'm
it's
just
not like
like,
a band, is it? It's like one man's thing.
yeah, but you know,
One
Roxy
man.
that aren't they?
What you say? Sorry.
Like Roxy Music are a bit like that, aren't they? Like Brian Ferry kind of rules the roost.
Yeah, but it's your band, isn't it? Like were at the start of it before him. So yeah, I
Mm.
mean, have you got any thoughts of doing like a solo thing yourself?
Yeah, I do things like that all the time. You know, I'm doing stuff all the time. I just think, oh, this would be a great Bunnymen track. That's my mate in America, Kelly Stoltz, and he puts vocals on them.
All right, yeah. Where can you find that? Is it on anything?
Well, I've done four with them so far. Um, we're planning on doing some more. I'd like to bring it out at some point, but they are. I like them anyway. You know,
Yeah, I'd give him a
uh,
listen. Definitely.
and like plus I'm doing this guitar on this record at the minute that'll eventually come out, and everyone will go, "Crikey!" You know, that's an unusual one. But there you go.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
intrigued at that one. I want to hear what it is.
well, that's my job to intrigue.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm intrigued myself. You know, like I'm hopefully doing a bit more of it today. Our engineers in Liverpool, a girl called Andrea, she's brilliant, and she comes here and we do the guitar bits and send them off to America, and then they get placed. You know, it's a brilliant way of doing it. You know, it's kind of it's quite good. You know, it's kind of yeah, it's interesting. Like you just get sent the stem, what they call the stems, which are you know, the bass will be on one track, guitars, singing, you know, drums and keyboards. Plonk them into Pro Tools, and they all line up, you know. And then like I do my guitar bits, and then we just send my guitar bits, and they just plonk them in, and then they can affect them or do whatever they want. We tend to send an affected version and a straight version, so the producer in America can either affect it themselves or use what I put on it. You know, when I say effect, I mean like you know echoes and distortions and you know all them. There's a million things you can do now, a
Yeah.
million, and it's yeah, it's turning out pretty good. You know, it's very good. You know,
Yeah, that's good then.
and
Do you prefer like
people that I'm working with are really pleased with it so far. So hopefully they'll use a lot of what I've done. But ultimately, it's down to them. They can
yeah.
say a bit or get rid of that bit, which is fine because that's you know that's what you sign up for. You know, it's not my band.
You know,
Uh,
like if you know, like you work with these other people, will you hear what they do and then add a guitar? But like, have you got riffs in the back of your mind that you've played before, or is it just always inspirational?
they've sent me stuff with like lead guitar on, and then I've replaced that lead guitar like with my own idea.
Ah, right, yeah,
Or you know, there'll be like a verse and it needs something, and I'll come up with something. but a lot of it's trial and error. I'm sitting there for ages working it out. I'm not like one of these musical people that just know where
Yeah.
everything should. So it's kind of, but that's where you find the little mistakes and the little kind of, the little areas that in the dark, that you shine a torch on and "Ooh, look at that down there. You know, that's more interesting to
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
So far, everything I've sent them, they've loved, and they've said it's took it to a completely different place.
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Got a text this morning, and it said, uh, where was it? It said, "Over the moon, next level." They keep saying next fucking level.
Can't argue with that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's the word. That's from the producer and the manager and the artist. Chuffed. So it's good. So one door closes, another one opens.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to keep yourself busy, like say on the book, the paintings, this
I've got,
music.
got no time to do anything. You know, I've got motorbikes to ride.
God, you still ride your motorbikes, that, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
That's- yeah. What else do you do in your free time? Though you not be creative, do you do?
um, I go to the pub on a sort of quiz tomorrow on a Tuesday, pub quiz. That's quite good. See all
Are you
my
good at it?
mates. We won last week, I think, or the week before. We win every
Oh.
now and then, but it's not like mastermind, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But there's some good teams that go. Um, that's quite good. And I go to loads of gigs. I'm going to 2 gigs this week, I think.
Who are you seeing?
I'm going to see Interpol.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of them.
I'm going to go and see Blue Tones.
All right, yeah, yeah.
Um, Last week, went to a play about Joy Division in Bury. That
Was
was
that
really
good?
good. It's on Fades. If it's on in your area, check it out. It's dead good. Um, yeah, I'm always doing something. I go to town quite a lot. Liverpool. You know, getting out and about. Go to Southport to the jazz night in Southport at Cooper's, which is really good.
What's your
Um,
favourite recent gig you've been to recently?
Favorite. Really like Mick Head's gig when I went to that
Oh,
did
yeah.
in last year or earlier on this year, definitely. Also seen lately. Um, Saw the White Hills not that long back. They were good from America. They're kind of like droney kind of rock. There's only 2 of them, but they're good. Yeah, really good. Um, Lazy Eyes was a great gig. Saw them in a little club in Liverpool called the Zanzibar, and it was amazing. It just sounded like the record. Obviously it wasn't just the record. It was them playing it, but they weren't live. But it sounded great, and they didn't seem to even have like anyone mixing it. They're in such
Really?
a that they haven't
Yeah,
got
yeah.
or anything, and they were really good. Uh, I went to see an Echo and the Bunnymen tribute band,
Well, they're good.
and they were good.
Well,
Yeah,
they
they
are,
were called
yeah.
Echoes of the Bunnymen.
That
They
must be
were
really
really
good.
good. It was great. It was like they had the sound of the early Bunnymen down perfect. You know, it was
Did they
pretty
see you in
interesting.
the crowd?
But
Did they see you in the crowd?
yeah, I was talking to them afterwards and that. Yeah, and then I did a couple of interviews on the radio and stuff like that because it was like an interesting news item that one of the Bunnymen had gone to see him, so it was on Radio Lancashire and that.
That's class, that.
It gave him a good little boost. They were good. They were good, and it was great because that's the only thing with being in a band is you can't see yourself, can you? Unless you're watching the test, not the same. It's like as being in a gig. Um, and I really enjoyed it.
That's classy, is that?
Yeah, so I'm always about, doing things in and
Yeah,
out.
yeah, it's good that then, yeah.
We've got some other stuff coming up, I think. We always get tickets, me and my mate Steve and his missus. We always go together and we get tickets early on. Oh, we're going to see a thing about the Moog synthesizer in Liverpool. It's like it's a whole week of events around it's in Moog or Moog or Moog synthesizer. Um, so it's like some sort of lecture stuff, and then there's like a Kraftwerk tribute band on at the end, and that sounds good. It's going to be interesting. That and there's a lad out of Portishead that's doing some stuff. So going to see that. And that's in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, nice, yeah.
There's something else as well in later on. Can't remember what it is. My mate Steve, he keeps on top of it all. Like he's still got a memory left.
Do you know have a good? Your memory's good though. That
But
first book.
the old stuff, I remember all that. It's crap for what happened yesterday. So I'm quite good at remembering, and I can put myself back into a van traveling across America, and
Yeah.
a Connor line van traveling across America, and I'm in the back like this. Everyone's asleep. Pete the Freitas used to be able to sleep anywhere.
Is there a tour that sticks out to you? I should have asked you that actually. Is there a tour or gig that sticks out?
The first time we did the Albert Hall was pretty special.
Yeah.
That was great. That was we did 2 nights. No one had done it for years, in London. No, I think Deep Purple or somebody like that were the last people to do it. And yeah, I was dead nervous, but it worked out all right. It was great. Yeah,
Yeah, good,
I've
good.
I've got a painting called Behind the Voodoo Curtain.
Have you?
Yeah,
Is there any way you can see your paintings or buy your paintings or like that?
I've just kind of like backed off from it a bit. Like I have got some other stuff floating around, but I think it's called Beyond the Voodoo Curtain or Behind the Voodoo. I can't remember actually. It's an abstracty thing, It looks a bit like your background.
Yeah, that's really good for a background, man.
Um, yeah. So I've got to phone up the engineer and see if she'll come down. Might be a bit late now. She comes from Liverpool. I don't live up the road. Like it's only like half an hour on the train. But she brings her Pro Tools up and we set up downstairs in my little studio.
Oh,
Actually, I use Logic Audio, but she uses Pro Tools, which is like supposedly the industry standard, So it's kind of, she brings it with her. Something like that.
do you enjoy recording at home then?
Yeah, it's good. It can be a bit like, uh, this thing they've been doing because I don't know the songs and they just present it to me and then I have to work it all. It can be a bit frustrating sometimes if it takes a while to find something that I think's good, because it's not only just fitting in the notes, it's got to sound good as well and sound bright and add something. So you're thrown in to the deep end of it.
Yeah,
But so
yeah,
still seem quite happy.
yeah, good, yeah. It's good to hear that like you say, still being creative and stuff. It's good to hear that.
Yeah, that's what I'm all about. I love that. That's it.
Yeah, good, yeah. I told you I could talk to you for hours. It's been great speaking to you on that. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, I enjoyed it myself.
Thank you, yeah, yeah.
So there'll be repercussions.
Why, what do you mean?
Some of the stuff I've said.
Do you want me to win it all out? Are you alright with it all?
Okay,
You're not bothered, though.
it'll all hang out, baby.
Nice one, yeah, thank you.
All right.
All right, cheers, nice one.
See you then. See you,
See you in a
Ethan.
bit.
Ta-ra.